Welcome back to the Seattle Convention Center. We're here for the 27th Annual Alzheimer's Association Regional Conference. We've met so many folks today and appreciate, again, all of their time sharing a little bit about what they do in association with the association or around it. And we're going to talk to another person right now who is involved with research around the Alzheimer's Association. That'd be Dr. Emily Trittschuh. She is with the University of Washington and VA Memory Wellness Program. And Dr. Trittschuh, thanks so much for sharing some time. I know you're very busy here today. We'll talk about a couple of the presentations that you have given or will give later today based on the timeline that we're with her right now. But talk to us first about your appointment with the UW and VA. You said it's kind of a dual purpose role?
Yeah, I really lucked out. It's kind of that dream job where you get to have both an academic affiliation as well as a hospital affiliation. I get to do my clinical work with veterans who've served us. I like to be able to serve them. And then through the UW and the combined VA research world, I get kind of the best of both of those worlds. So yeah, I have great grant funding, being part of the UW. They're good at bringing in money, and that way you can carry out a lot of this research that wouldn't get done otherwise.
How did this come about for you? Because it is a bit of an unusual appointment, I should say.
I lucked out, really. I certainly wasn't necessarily looking toward a particular hospital population or anything like that. I've been working in neurodegenerative diseases, interested in Alzheimer's disease, pretty much since undergraduate. And so when I was coming out of my fellowship, I didn't realize it, but I'd sort of put myself into a pretty small niche. There aren't a lot of jobs out there to do what I like to do. And I lucked out. A mentor that I had knew Dr. Suzanne Kraft, who is the director of the Memory Wellness Program, and they, through communications, passed on that a job was open. So I applied.
And you got it?
You have to apply to the job to get it. Yeah.
Very good. With all the things out there, especially within the medical field, Dr. Trittschuh, that you could actually have gone into, what called you into the field of neurology and specifically what you do through the UW and VA now?
There's not much of a short answer to that one. I was always interested in the brain and how the brain works. I started off thinking more a medicine route. I ended up going more of a psychology, neuropsychology route, mostly because I felt like healthcare was changing and I was worried I wouldn't get to spend as much time one-on-one with the people I was working with. And things change all the time. At 22, you don't really anticipate these things. But I did end up finding a director at the Alzheimer Center at Duke University where I was an undergraduate, and I met her. She gave a talk, and I went to her after. I said, what is your title? How did you get there? I want to do what you do. And from that point on, I got a job at the Duke Alzheimer's Disease Research Center, and then parlayed that into grad school and so on. So just always wanted to know how the brain works.
Excellent, and you're obviously getting a lot more aware of how it works, I guess, through the Memory Wellness Program. What does that do exactly through that co-op between UW and VA?
Absolutely. It's a really unique program that is interested in neurodegenerative disease, but particularly from a neuroendocrinology focus through Suzanne Kraft and everyone that works in this team, this large team. And we're particularly focused on insulin and the role of insulin in the brain, how it is having insulin resistance is a risk factor for dementia, Alzheimer's disease in particular, and appreciating what could possibly be done early on or pre-Alzheimer's disease to either use that to improve memory or prevent change later on.
And I know that that's one of the things you're going to be giving a workshop on later today is intranasal insulin.
Exactly.
Now, we think of insulin, and I think we obviously think of insulin that we might take for diabetes, but we're talking about a different kind of insulin here?
The insulin itself is actually just your standard insulin. It's
is.
the method of delivery that's different and actually what makes it doable. We can't treat someone peripherally with insulin who doesn't have diabetes. That would mess up this whole amazing balance our body has for controlling blood sugar, glucose, and the insulin levels. So by doing it, administering intranasally, you're bypassing the peripheral system and messing with the pancreas and all those other organs and literally just getting it to the brain where it can be used in the on that basis.
And I know that we've heard in the conference already today from Dr. Small, who was the keynote speaker, about whether some of these things that are supposed to be good for the prevention potentially of Alzheimer's are actually getting to the brain or not. He talked about, you'd probably know, I don't remember, the element that's in red wine that's being...
It's being marketed as resveratrol.
Resveratrol,
right?
is being extracted, and again, he said to wash it down with a glass of red wine because we know that the effects may be getting to your brain in the liquid, the pure form of wine, but not necessarily from the capsules where that material is extracted. So delivery methods to the brain, I imagine, for treatment are very difficult because we obviously know surgery is an incredible undertaking for intervention that way. This is what that's based on?
Yes, but also more coming up with the delivery method is key. The actual mechanisms in the brain of getting it to work is the whole other area. This is kind of what happens with almost all drug development, is that you can come up with a really great idea or a compound, but if you can't get it into the brain, bypassing we have this blood-brain barrier you've probably heard of. The whole point is that we don't want lots of foreign and non, internally generated products just to float on in there. You can get nasty viruses, whatever. The brain's very sensitive. And so that delivery mechanism ends up being another consideration. And we're not necessarily, our group, a Memory Wellness program, is more about healthy living. So when we think about the insulin, it's not that we're trying to shove insulin into a system in addition to what's normally there. We're looking at individuals who actually have developed insulin resistance, meaning that through, unfortunately, maybe not enough exercise, maybe not the healthiest eating, their body has been sending signals that's turned off. Essentially, the target cells that insulin would normally talk to have become tired, they're worn out, they've heard too much, there's been too much insulin because there's too much glucose, and so they've become resistant to that. Well, unfortunately, insulin does lots of things. It has many important mechanisms. So we're trying to get it back to the parts of the brain that can use it for learning and memory, for dealing with proteins, especially toxic compounds like the beta amyloid and things like that. So the end goal is to kind of try to help the brain be better and maybe more what it used to be. Being able to clear out those toxic compounds.
Literally trying to reverse some of the effects, actually, then.
That we do to ourselves. Some of it's just living, others, unfortunately, is not always healthy living that can get in the way.
Wow, that's an exciting field of research to be in, and I know that one of the things you wanted to advocate for were folks to get involved with research, because again, you can do all the case studies that you want to, all the chemical workups that you want to, all of the white papers that you want to, I guess, as far as how exactly you might manifest these changes and help people in a positive way. If you don't have the people to be involved in the case studies, it doesn't happen.
Right, there's wonderful research being done like at the bench in the lab, and that's great, and there's so many findings there. We need to take that and actually show that it works in human populations, and we're not using chemicals that are un-FDA approved. Insulin is perfectly acceptable and has very little side effects, especially when you just keep it in the brain. And so the idea is if we can get people to get involved in research, and we can be able to look at how they respond to these things, that really can help us move forward, especially with the idea of trying to prevent and not so much treating Alzheimer's always, but looking at how to delay it or prevent it, I think is very important.
Yeah. Dr. Trittschuh, I saved this question for you, and it's primarily due to the fact of your age. You're obviously young to be working in this field.
Thank you.
And I think you could maybe answer this question the best, because it's obvious that from what we've heard today, there is a serious lack of funding, a serious lack of awareness for Alzheimer's. The statistics would bear that out across the board. So I'm wondering, what do we do to raise the awareness? Cancer obviously has so much money that's pumped into it, and certainly we don't want to degrade anything else that might be going on to do research in the field of other areas where people's lives are being saved, but let's face it, Alzheimer's is not really getting its just desserts. What's got to change sociologically for us to get to that next level, in your opinion?
Well, yeah, it's a very important topic. I think it's going to take a little bit of a mental shift here. People need to look forward and anticipate the future a little bit. We tend to, all of us, and I'm just guilty as the next person, we think of what we need immediately. And it was just last year that the first baby boomers are hitting 65. If we don't start doing something now, and by now I mean actually it needed to be happening 5 and 10 years ago, we are going to be hit with, and everyone knows this, but they don't do anything about it, an epidemic. And then you combine that with the diabetes epidemic, especially in this age cohort. I really think it's almost, how would you call it? Putting more money and more research into this area is disaster prevention. It should not be thought of just supporting research. It's disaster prevention.
Yeah, and it begins with the individual, I think, as we've learned today as well, being aware of the fact that you will age. And again, certain memory processes are slowing down as a part of aging. That's common, but trying to prevent in the long run Alzheimer's, or at least delay its onset, which is what Dr. Small shared with us some time ago, is the principal factor here. And then eventually when that awareness gets raised from each of us individually, maybe it'll spread and be a little bit bigger as far as the good it can do at the top levels and at the research levels. Absolutely. Like you were involved with Dr. Trittschuh. Thanks so much for your time. Is there anything else you want to share with us today? Or?
No, thank you. I appreciate you having me on.
Absolutely. Well, I appreciate your being here. I know your time is very valuable, and we continue to wish you best of success with the University of Washington and VA Memory Wellness Program. Is there a phone number folks can call or get in touch with that program if they're interested?
Oh, no, on the spot for the 1-800 number. I am
Is
happy.
it the same as Dr. Leveren's at the UW, potentially?
It is
or?
not.
Okay.
And I really can't remember the 1-800 number off the top of my head. That's embarrassing. But my phone number is 206-277-6283. I may not be as fast responsive as our 1-800 number, but I can always return a call and pass that information on to our coordinators.
Okay, and I imagine you're also online, so if you want to Google that research
Yes, the Memory
department.
Wellness Program, Suzanne Kraft, it's all there online.
Okay, very good. Dr. Emily Trittschuh, again, is with the UW VA Memory Wellness Program and is involved in a lot of research that's going on there. Some good stuff that's happening behind the scenes. One of the young minds that's hard at work on trying to raise awareness and, again, hopefully maybe find a cure for Alzheimer's at some point in the future. Dr. Trittschuh, again, thanks so much.